Good morning again. Welcome to another Kenny Cars and Coffee, or Cars and Coffee with Kenny. Those who've been with us well understand that, or has been suggested for those that catch up and watch in the evening, Whiskey Cars and Kenny. Anyway, I'm Kenny Brown, and over the next hour, we're going to try to share some extensive knowledge and experience in professional motorsports and building high-performance cars for well over 40 years. And also, I have my trusty toolbox. It's been with me for all that time, and it's been just every major racetrack in North America. And somebody said one time, if that toolbox can talk, and that's pretty true. Today we got a lot of things to talk about. Let's see if we can get, oh, I see a heart-shaped wrench going up already. I like those. I'm going to talk about the top 5 starter mods for track. I'm going to continue on, answer some of the questions I couldn't answer last week on Aero. And I'm going to revisit the rear grip kit for a little bit, and there's a good reason for that. And then also, of course, your questions. Now, the questions that I answer here come from the Speed Therapy Society. And if you're not a member of the Speed Therapy Society, I recommend that you sign up, because it's getting to be bigger and bigger, and it's just a really great community. And to give you an example, hit the right page. From the Speed Therapy Society, Mark gave us some real good input on some different tires that he's used, and then also Tim and Dan talked about I talked about the nannies, and they kind of reinforced what I said. The cars that had nanny devices, like the S197 and 550s, this is exactly what I said. Is like every nanny you turn off, you need to have an increased skill set. And then Dan recommended when you start doing turn the nannies up, you go down a group. And I shared that a lot of the F550s I've seen backed into a wall were because people took all the nanny devices off and didn't realize how much they were helping them. So that's a good tip, and that's all from the Speed Therapy Society. Artwork. This month's artwork is in honor of Le Mans, as they would say. This is the 1969 winning Ford GT that was in a pitched battle with Porsche all the way up to the last lap, where there was lots of lead changes, and the GT40 was finally the winner. That was with Jackie Ickx and Oliver. So I guess that's also the car that won the year before. So give you a look. See? What are you? So it's also got right behind it. This is another one of my Nicholas Watts works, and it's got the Porsche right behind it. So in honor of Le Mans, that's kind of like the artwork of the month. I'd kind of like to know, to help me with some of the more stuff that we're doing, how many people are performance street, how many are street and track, and how many are pure track. Because just knowing what you guys are doing, what you guys need to know, helps me kind of shape what I want to share with you. So if you could give us, kind of shoot in that information, that'd be really helpful. And we got some shout outs to Andafe, who shared with the 7904 Mustang Road Racers HPD Autocross group, and Rick and Brad shared with the Track Guys Performance group. If you're in any of the Facebook groups that you think that people could really get some value out of what we're doing here, certainly have them join up or share it with them. We'd love to have it. Before I get into some of the other things, I want to do a real quick revisit on the rear grip kit. Now, those who've been with us before kind of understand what the rear grip kit is about. Those that haven't, the rear grip kit is a solution. It's a solution to tail-happy S197 Mustangs. And anybody that's got an S197 Mustang, put their foot down going around a corner, know exactly what I'm talking about. So the rear grip kit is a solution, and actually is a completely engineered system. Every part in the system is engineered to work with another part to get to the final result. And I'll kind of go over that briefly, but the reason I'm bringing it up again is because our good friend Wes, Uncle, who's a really stand-up guy, really talented, put a how-to video together on installing a rear grip kit. And to show how easy it is, he did it in his driveway on jack stands, and he also put in a shameless plug for Kenny Brown jacking rails, which you'll see in the video just how incredibly valuable they are. But he just put it on in his driveway, and it's pretty easy, and it really works. And the reason it works, engineering, geometry. Where to start? Okay, every piece, like every single piece of this package has an input, positive input on improving the rear suspension geometry. Start at the top and work down. Our upper control arm, and you can see that's pretty beefy. It's got a big 3/4 inch rod end, and it's a FK. It's a real high quality FK rod end, and because it's up high, I don't know if you can see that we put sealants on it. Which is because it's really hard to service and clean if it's way up there in the car. So we put sealants on it to do that. And also, if you notice, the arm is bent. And I think everybody else in the aftermarket has a straight arm. Well, if you're running a car low, a track car low, and you hit a big bump or go off track and hit a big bump, that control arm is going to hit the tunnel. That's why we curve this, so there's enough room for you to have a big bounce and not hurt the control arm more of the tunnel. Also, it's longer than standard, and the pickup point is a lot different, which supports the side view geometry, which is the instant center, which is anti-squat and anti-dive. We'll get into more of that in coming episodes. This is the traction, lower traction grip, and what it does is it moves the pickup point for the control arm 4 inches down. And by doing it, moving this 4 inches down and moving the upper control arm down, it brings the instant center, which in a lowered Mustang is out in front of the car. And instant center is where you get your anti-squat geometry. And it brings it all the way back to the middle of the car. So we get good anti-squat. And as you know, anti-squat means anti-lift. So not only does it give you good traction off the corner, but it holds the back of the car down under braking, and anybody that's really hit the brakes hard on a stock Mustang knows how badly the back of the car wants to jump up. So that's another part that's engineered. To go with that is the lower control arms. And for lower control arms, I actually dropped down to a 5/8 rod end. The reason for that is the 3/4 inch rod ends are big and heavy, and it's pretty much overkill. Also, most 3/4 rod ends that are used in the aftermarket are kind of two-piece, which are formed. It's, you know, they're okay, but they're not really high-performance rod end. These are super high-grade FK rod ends, and you notice there's a difference on the spacers on either end. Well, the reason for that is the stock control arms. If you look down, they're splayed out the front. Well, without getting too detailed, by splaying out the front, if you were to draw a line back to the point of convergence and then a line through the roll center, it's pointing up in the air, which you don't want that. By making them parallel, and what this does is straightens them out and makes them parallel to center line. In every race car I've ever worked on, control arms always parallel the center line. By doing that, there is no point of convergence, which means the point of convergence is infinity, which means now the roll axis is parallel to the control arm. I know it's a lot. But the other thing we do is, you know that little ring? What happens is, because we put the rod end so close to the end, just in case it wants to roll over, either at the chassis or at the back, this rubber ring is going to catch the rod end so it doesn't roll over and start clanging and banging. Okay, what are we down to? We're down to the roll center relocation kit, which is probably, this is really, really important. You hear me talk about that before. We take this is the axle side of the roll center relocation kit, and we move the roll center down about 4 inches. It goes from the center of the axle down to the bottom of the axle, which is, in my Trans Am days, that's where we put the roll center and the live axle. That's about as low as you can get it, is on the bottom of the diff. And we did that with the Watts link horizontal. That's a little hard to do in a car. So bringing the panner bar does the same thing, because where the panner bar crosses the center line of the car, that's your roll center. And as we talked before, the roll center stock Mustang is up high. It's in the middle of the differential. And I'm sure you've been driving around a corner, you go around a spirited corner, and you know, it kind of feels like that laugh inside tire, once the back of the car wants to get loose, tire wants to get soft. Well, what this does, it brings the roll center down, so the car doesn't want to roll up as much. And what we do by bringing the rear roll center down, the front roll center up, it kind of flattens it out with the connection between the two. So the roll around the corner is so much less. And what that means is you can actually get back to the gas a lot sooner. You don't have to wait as long for the axle to settle, because that's a big thing going around a corner. You hit the gas too soon and you overload the outside tire, and you know, you get happy loose. With this is that you're able to get to the gas sooner because you haven't rolled up as much and you kind of flatten that roll connection out. And you can get to the gas. I'm usually at least 50, 75% on the gas before I hit the apex, which gives me incredible corner exit speed. And corner exit speed is, the faster your corner exit speed is, the higher your terminal speed at the end of the straightaway. So, getting a jump off the corner makes you faster down the straightaway. And I mean, I'll give you a good example of that. GT500s are great cars. They're really fast, but they've got a lot of engine and they've got a lot of weight in the front. So they're not going to be as nimble, which means in coming around the corner, I mean, it's just going to take them. They're not going to have quite as much grip at the front. They're going to have to slow down a little bit more. And then because of all the power and torque, they can't really get into the throttle heavily. They got to feed the throttle in. Well, because of that, in tracks like Road America, I mean, I come around the corners and I'm in the gas right at the apex or before, which means I'm carrying just a boatload of speed off the corner and I end up passing the GT500s on the straightaway. So it's not always about power. Real speed comes from the chassis and, of course, driving. You have to learn how to drive. So by moving the roll center down, then we brought the roll center down in the combination of lower roll center, the instant center coming back to the center of the car, which gives anti-squat, and the control arms being straightened out, which improves the roll axis. I mean, everything works together. And there was somebody that we were talking to last week that was really skeptical of taking the rear sway bar off. Trust me, what the geometry does, it negates the need for a rear sway bar. And I've had people in the past, especially it was a group I was working with out in California. They were running NASA, and they put my suspension on, and they didn't believe me on the rear sway bar, so they put the rear sway bar on, and they took it off right away. I mean, they found out, well, that's not good. It makes the car loose. That was actually the team that we took into professional racing in World Challenge. That was the Paul Walker and Rodos team, the ever-evolving turquoise cars, which are beautiful cars.
Always evolving.
Always evolving, that's what it is. So anyway, rear grip kit, it's something every S197 Mustang needs, whether it's a V6, a GT500, especially GT500, or a GT. It just changes everything and how the got works. So moving right along, and of course I'm going to answer questions as you send questions in. We'll try to get to them as we go along too. Got the shout outs. See, I have to have help. I can't remember all this. And of course you're going to see Kerry put up signs and telling things to do, like now.
If you're just joining us.
Oh, if you're just joining us, thank you. I'm Kenny Brown, and this is Kenny Cars of Coffee Kenny, or Whiskey Cars and Kenny. And I'm sharing as much as I can of my knowledge to you from my experience, and if I can help you not make the mistakes I did, then it's a good day for all of us. So, and like I said, the Speed Therapy Society, if not in there, get in. Mark and Tim and Dan shared some really good information there, and we're going to keep putting up more and more resources into that. And we got Mark. I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name because I don't want to embarrass myself.
It's McIsaac.
McIsaac? Okay, McIsaac. Okay, that I can see that. He has a big question. In fact, there's a number of questions in one. Car setup, tuning, tire temperatures, pressures, fine-tuning camber, when to do it, bump, rebound, what feedback the driver should feel with changes, oversteer, understeer, etc. Car setup is an enormous topic, which I would like to see more of. Good. That leads me in, another segue, into we actually have a date for the 5-day workshop. And it is June 22nd to 26th. I told you we had, we have a lot to get ready for this, and are we ready? No. But I can't keep putting it off, so we're just going to go and do the best job I can. And it's going to be 1 hour each evening, Monday through Friday, and you can sign up in the Speed Therapy Society. That's a private Facebook group, and if you can't make it live, then you'll be able to see the replay in Speed Therapy Society. And also, Carrie says that if you would like to attend without using Facebook, then send her an email at info@kennybrown.com, and she will hook you up so you can watch it without having to go to Facebook. I know a lot of you guys just don't like Facebook. And in that, what I'm going to try to cover, oh, I see questions coming up. All right. What I'm going to try to cover, in the 5 days, This is going to be a lot. It's going to be the first day. This is the first critical step in transforming your driving experience. Oh, by the way, that's the name of the workshop, is Transforming Your Driving Experience. The first day is the critical first steps in transforming your driving experience. Day 2 is building your performance platform, part 1, which is handling suspension geometry. Day 3 is building your performance platform 3, which is brakes, wheels, tires, cooling, safety. Day 4 is dialing in your car for maximum driving experience. And day 5 is tips, tricks, and driving techniques, car preparation, and we'll also answer some questions. Now, how are we going to get all that in 5 days? I'm going to try. Do my best. I guarantee it's... Here's the thing. If you've been with us since the beginning, you're going to see, again, a lot of what you've already seen. However, this is going to be put together in, this is how you do it, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It kind of gives you the way to go through how to think about what you want to do and go through the whole process. Now, it's going to be primarily, because most of our questions about S197 track cars, it's going to be primarily about S197 track cars, but also what applies to a track car also applies to a street car, and also applies to the SN95 and Fox guys. Although we don't have, we got full suspension for the 99 to 04 Cobras, and we don't have a lot for the other cars yet. I mean, it's one thing that pains me, because we haven't got into a new shop yet, because some of you know we had a really bad experience in Chicago with a company up there we licensed our brand to that I won't go into, but we're still recovering from that. But the shop's coming, and when I do, man, you blow you guys away what kind of stuff I'm going to come up with, especially for SN95 and Fox. I mean, you guys may be top on my list. So anyway, that's the 5-day. And so getting back into... Okay, last week we had some aero questions I could not answer. Because I didn't, in my mind, I couldn't see the cars. So Steve asked about the rear spoiler on the Boss Laguna Seca, if it's effective. You know, I remember once, of course, once I look at these things, I remember. Yeah, it is effective. I've never seen any, wind tunnel data, so I can't be specific, but I can tell you the positioning of it is off the trunk. It's got a little lip in the back. It's gonna help push the air up and create a little negative behind the car, which will add rear stability and rear grip. So I mean, I'm going to say yes. Certainly, it's better than nothing at all. Trust me, it's better than nothing at all. And then Brian asked about the 08 GT500 hood. Is it good for venting? And the answer is yes. I mean, those are the ones that have like the square openings in the front that are blocked off. And that's a great opportunity to open up the venting. You can just open that up as much as you can, get as much area. And if there's anything in the aftermarket that has kind of like slats pointing backwards, that would be really helpful too, because that'll just help channel the air, and so it doesn't tumble so much. And also in the very front lip, if you just put like a little piece of aluminum angle that sticks up about that far above the very front of it, that's going to create negative pressure, which is going to help pull air out from underneath. And adding more air to the front, or getting more air out of the engine compartment, what you talked about, helps cooling, and it helps front grip tremendously. And you can adapt any of the GT500 hoods that have sort of an opening. You certainly can adapt that somehow to make the opening work even better. And a good example of that was last week we talked about how I put carbon louvers on George's car to help with cooling, and he didn't want to get a vented hood because he just bought this carbon hood. It's like an 03, 04 Cobra, which has kind of like the depressions in the front. Well, if you saw what I did is I cut those depressions out, opened it all the way up, and then put in some carbon louvers, which really helped improve the aerodynamics. And we put that up. I think that was on Speed Therapy's site. It wasn't, Carrie? We posted the picture of George's louvers. Yes. Okay. While I'm on George's car, see if you guys can help me. George really wants a new Kenny Brown GT4. But as we talked about before, if he brings another Mustang home without selling the one he has, he's going to be sleeping in it. So he's not really comfortable sleeping in his car. So if you guys could help me find, let me put it this way, a worthy buyer for George's car. And this has to go to somebody who appreciates cars and is very special. Because this is kind of a one of a kind. I'm going to read down. We'll post up what all's in it, but I'm just going to read down kind of like the highlights. I originally built it in 2003, so serial number is 2005. Serial number is 05003C CSR. We turned it into a full CSR in 2010 when we upgraded it. There's got to be way more than $80,000 in this car, I got to tell you. And when I go through this, you'll understand. Like on the conversion, it's got AGS 4.5 suspension, tubular control arms, K-member, rear control arms, IRS hard mount geometry, lower control arms, coilover shocks, forward torque brace, rear steer, aluminum diff bushings, jacking rails, sump brake connectors, matrix brace, Corbeau seats, 5-point harness as driver and passenger, one of my street cages, rear seat delete, Brembo brakes, carbon fiber heat exchanging hood, differential cooler, brake ducts. Not done. Page 2. Okay, and in 2010, what I did is he had the engine rebuilt it's like over 600 horsepower rear wheel, and it's really cool. I mean, it's been bored and stroked at 5.2. It's got titanium liners, diamond pistons, forged rod, forged pistons, ported heads, and it was tuned by Brenspeed, and it comes with preset tunes depending on what ambient temperature it is. So I mean, it makes a lot of power. George said there's not more than 600 or 700 miles on that motor since he got it. He got it so he could try to keep up with the Corvettes on track, and he found out that it wasn't pure power wasn't the answer. And it made him quicker, but he still couldn't catch the Corvettes. He realized that he didn't quite have the skill set to catch up with the Corvettes, and he was only marginally quicker than he was without all the big power. So it kind of leads into what I'm saying, that you don't need big power, but if you've got it and you control it, you can do well. See, the other upgrade that we did, carbon fiber deck lid, and with a wing mount, and it's got a G-Stream wing, which a lot of you know my late son Paul helped develop. And also, speaking of G-Stream, that's a lot of you may know that it's out of production. The guy that was doing it is retiring, and so he's not doing the wing anymore. However, let me know if you're interested, or anybody else is interested, because we've been talking about them. Maybe bringing the wing program forward if there's enough interest. So anybody that's interested in G-Stream, and as you know, my late son Paul helped develop it, and that was the standard wing on the 302 Boss S Mustangs that ran in World Challenge and every place else. Okay, got off track. Hood louvers. Moved the battery to the trunk, right rear of the trunk, because that's where lightest part of the car. We upgraded the charge cooler to a super big heat exchanger. Relocated the battery to the trunk. We also moved the air tank for the supercharger to the trunk, and to do that we also put in a super high performance water pump. We did put side skirts on it, which you heard me talk about. Front fender flare openings, and you'll see pictures of that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And to do the front, we actually put a Mach 1 chin spoiler on it, which helped us get a flat surface so I can work off of that. So we put the front corner splitters and new lower air dam. And the corner splitters, you can pick up a lot of downforce at the front corner of the car where the air is rushing around. And I talked about here, we called the side skirts we talked about before. That's a flat plane. But on the rocker arms, that helps keep the air from rolling under the car and adding pressure to the back. And on the fenders, we put kind of fence, because you get down and look straight at your car at about 6 inches off the ground. You're going to see the body kind of curve. If you're looking on the driver's side, the body kind of curves in, and you're going to see about this much of the tire sticking out. Okay, when the tire sticks out and you're rushing through the air hits that, and it goes into the fender well, which you don't want. So we actually put a little fence, which kind of just real thin ABS that follows the fender up to the top, and it's just wide enough so you can't see the tire sticking out, which also is another downforce helper. And I think there's pictures in what we're going to post on George's car. And then around, we focus on the corners. That's where we pick up a lot of downforce. And that's kind of an interesting point. If any of you've seen like the prototype cars or like the major GT cars, IMSA cars, and you see the front splitter is kind of odd. You know, it has a big splitter on the corners. It comes, and then up the middle, it kind of comes up, goes down, and another around the corner. The reason for that is they're using the corners to create front downforce, because, you know, that's where, and you see on George's car how I do that, is create downforce on the front corners. But that little hump in the middle, what they're doing is they're inviting air under the car, and by that they have the aerodynamics really worked out. So they invite air under the car, it flows through, it goes back, it goes to the rear diffuser, and it actually creates downforce in the back. So, but you have to have a perfectly flat car, and I think someone asked about making a flat car from an SN95, and you know, the answer is, will it help? Yes. I mean, anytime you can flatten out the bottom of the car, you kind of like tidy up the air. Is it something that you really notice on a track day car? You know, probably not, but it does. I mean, it does help. But you also have, if you flatten it out, then you have to have the side skirts to keep the air from rolling under, and then you have to have a diffuser in the back to help channel the air out and up. And as we talked about before, diffusers actually help the rear wing be more efficient. So it's kind of like a twofold thing. But anyway, that's why the front is mounted up, because they are inviting a certain amount of air. They calculate how much air they want. They're inviting a certain amount of air under the car, which they flow all the way back and out the back. So a little sidetrack there. What did I miss here? Chin spoiler, quarter splitters. Oh, we upgraded the front struts to cone double adjustable. Back then, I didn't have any other choices, but we have a kit that slid over the conies, which made them a coilover. Cone double adjustables, and converted the fronts to coilover. And of course, we had coilovers in the back for the IRS, and then we upgraded the springs for track. So, I mean, seriously, I mean, he's asking like $39,000, and the engine probably cost him close to that. So, I mean, I would like to see this go to a really deserving person, somebody who's a real Mustang person that'll kind of cherish it and take care of it, because it's pretty special, one-of-a-kind car. So if you guys know of anybody, let us know. I mean, I'm sure George will be eternally happy because he gets his new Kenny Brown GT4. So anyway, it's kind of a little sidetrack, but it all started with the scoops on the hood. That's clever. I want to pat myself on the back for that. Okay, what are we up to? We are up to, oh, I didn't get finished with the aero stuff. I got sidetracked. Chris wanted to know on his 10 GT500 if the fog lights are set in, would it be effective to put tape across the holes? The answer again is probably yes, because that's where the air wants to move really fast around the car. Is it something you feel and notice? Maybe, probably not. But I mean, it doesn't hurt. I mean, these little things that, you know, that we do on like pro race cars, you can do in your car. You might not notice it, but if you do enough little things, it's going to give you some value. So the short answer is, yeah, go ahead and tape them off, and just make sure there's no edges on the tape, and then it's really smooth. Because you know, air moving around there, it's going to sit the hole and create turbulence. So just cover it, so get the air floating right around. Okay, I think that was all last week's questions that I didn't get to. Oh, here we go. Gary's giving me signs. Why do I keep forgetting this? All I want to talk about is cars. If you like Cars and Coffee, remind you each week, along with the replay, sign up for the newsletter. Oh, newsletter too. I forgot about that. And then hold it up. I can't see the bottom. There's a link at the top of the page to join the newsletter.
Say that one more time. There's a link.
Okay, there's a link at the top of the page to join the newsletter. Happy?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now what we need to get into, what we're talking about, we covered, you know, Mark's big question in the 5-day workshop, and then getting back to the front. Let's see. Top 5, I think Christopher asked the top 5 starter parts for a track car. This is a really difficult question to answer because it depends on which car, Fox, SN95, SN97, 550. Because the further you go back, the more you have to do. The further you come forward, the less you have to do. But in general, the number one thing, hands down, brakes. And you've heard me talk about this before. You have to have good brakes. You know, a Mustang is 3,800 pounds of pure kinetic energy soaring down the track 120 miles an hour. And the only way to slow down, well, not the only way, I mean, it's the best way. You could use a tree, a wall, or a guardrail, which really aren't the best, but they are very effective in stopping the car, is to take that kinetic energy, 3,800 pounds kinetic energy, and turn it into heat energy via the brakes. Remember Newton's law, something in motion stays in motion until acted upon by outside force. Well, the brakes take that kinetic energy, and through heat, they turn that kinetic energy into heat energy, and they use that to slow the car down, which means the brakes get hot, really, really hot. My brakes in my car, I'm running like 1,200 degree rotor temperature in the front, and we talked about rotor paint in previous sessions about how you can use that to gauge what temperature your rotor are actually running, because that's what you want to match your pads to the temperature your rotors are running. If you have too high of a compound, too aggressive of a compound, and your rotor temperatures aren't that high, it's not going to be that effective. If you have high temperatures and kind of a low temperature pad, they'll stop, but your wear factor is going to increase dramatically. So it's kind of like matching the temperature on the rotors with a compound of the brake pads. And we've got, I think I got maybe 15, 20 different brake compounds that we use, everywhere from ambient temperature all the way up to like 1,800 degrees, 2,000 degrees, and with a whole bunch of them in between. And with brake pads, you really kind of want to get, like with the, let's say the Hawk DTC 70s, for example, that's a pure race pad. The heat range is from 1,400 to 1,600 degrees. I mean, from 400 to 1,600 degrees. Well, my car's running right in the 1,200 degree range, so that's kind of right in the middle. So that's kind of a good match. We've also got some other pads that have a broad, our new G-Lock pads that we're using. I've got more compound choices in there, and more different heat ranges, so that we can kind of match that up. You know, just set a 15-minute call up with Carrie. Again, I do 3 or 4 times a week. I'll do a free 15-minute conference to answer some of your questions that are a little more complex than trying to answer during our episodes. So if you've got a brake question, you want to know what brakes to use, give us a call, and I'll give you the right pad. If you're just starting out, if you're intermediate, or you're just super car guy, track car guy, I got the pad for you. And also brake fluid. Brake fluid is super important. Stock brake fluid will boil at the temperatures. Remember, talking about like 1,200 degrees rotor temperature. Well, the calipers are getting hot too. The brake pads get hot. They put heat in the caliper. Caliper puts heat in the brake fluid, and stock brake fluid will boil. And when it boils, you'll go to hit the brakes, nothing. Then you have to use the alternative methods of slowing down, which is a tree, guardrail, wall, things like that, which you really don't want to do. And so high temperature brake fluid, I talked about that before. We carry Bear, which right now is the highest dry boiling point brake fluid. So that's super important, and we carry that. And then aside from brakes are number one. Now, whether it's you're just starting and you have your stock brakes, get brake pads, get high temp fluid. That'll start you out. If you get going a little more, you're going to want to upgrade from OE type brakes into something that's a legitimate track brake. We've got, for people that just have standard brakes, we've got 2 upgrades. We've got like and we work with Bear a lot. We've been doing that for years and years. The Pro Plus, which is a great street brake, 6-piston caliper, uses a street type pad, and it's good for, I mean, I used to say it's just for the street, but we actually had a customer that ran a whole season in HPD with these brakes, and they were fine. We just used really good brake pads. But then he upgraded to the Kenny Brown Pro 4R brakes, which are serious race brakes at a bargain price. I mean, they're true, honest to God, professional race brakes at half the price of Brembo GTRs. So, I mean, brakes is number one. And then from there, depending on the car. Remember, I always talk about the performance, building your performance platform, which is chassis, suspension, wheels, tires, brakes. Well, obviously, brakes come first. After that, it's like chassis and suspension. If you've got a Fox SN95, you've got to do something with the chassis, because those are real flexi flyers, which is jacking rail, matrix brace, and subframes. S197, jacking rails, and the matrix brace. The 550 cars have a pretty stiff chassis. We really haven't addressed that yet. So getting your chassis, suspension, wheel, tire, brakes, and then you get the suspension. the first upgrade in suspension is going to be springs and shocks. And, you know, I'm a big proponent of getting the right springs and shocks under the car, getting the shocks matched to the springs matched to the shocks. And I use much higher spring rates than anybody else in the aftermarket. And that's because I've got much more experience at this than anybody else in the aftermarket. And real briefly, the factory springs that's selling on a 197 are like 175 front. You can get aftermarket springs up to 220, 225, and that's about as high as it'll go for just aftermarket spring, but you have no control over ride height. My touring package starts at 350, and then my street performance goes to 400. And you say, oh, that's a lot. My intermediate track, for somebody that's still running street tires, intermediate track would be 500 or 550 front springs. And if you're full-time track, experienced in running sticky tires, 650. And you're gonna go, oh my God, that's a lot of spring. Well, not really. As you go further up, like for the World Challenge cars, my late son Paul drove, that's Pirelli Slicks, professional driver, you know, we're 850 to 1,000 pounds. Now, trust me, do not want to try putting 850 springs in your car, because you will find yourself in the weeds very, very quickly. It's kind of like turning nanny devices on. You know, every nanny you turn off, you have to increase skill set. Well, same thing with springs. Every spring grade you go up, you have to improve your skill set of driving. So that's why I like to start people that are just starting out. I'll start them at a spring rate. The softer the spring, the easier the car is to drive, which is why I start people soft. And then we can move them up, and we, like the jerseys we use are like probably top shock, my favorite shock. We can start somebody at like a 400-pound spring and take them to a 600-pound spring over 3 seasons, because the coiler just pop one spring off and take it off. Now, our H&Rs are kind of a unique package because it comes with a 630 front, but I mean it's the way the shocks are valved is really impressive, because they, well, we just got, who was it put it on that said it passed the wife test? Was that Tim?
Yeah, that's Tim Thomasak.
Yeah, Tim Thomasak put on the street performance H&Rs with the 630 fronts.
Actually, it wasn't street performance, RSS.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's street performance. You know, the RS shocks. That's with the adjustable fronts, fixed adjust rears, and a coil over front and a coil adjuster in the back, and 630 springs and single adjustable. And what we got back is, ta-da! Listen to this drum roll. It passed the wife test.
Actually, it got a B.
It passed the wife test with a solid B. So that's kind of a unique spring and shock package that works on the street, passes the wife test, and also you just kind of turn it up a little bit for the track to get more control, and we'll talk about more of that in the 5-day. You know, the faster you go, the more control you need. So, okay, we talked about brakes, chassis, spring and shock, brake, suspension, wheel starters, brakes. In S197, geometry, after springs and shocks, geometry is important. Rear grip kit that I talked about tames the back. Front grip kit for the front takes care of the front. All the geometry is completely changed. I'm the only one that changes every spec of geometry in a 197. Now, the 550 cars, we just go with springs and shocks and sway bars and brakes, wheels, and tires, because that's such a well-advanced chassis that we don't have to do as much. Remember I said the newer the car is, we do less. The older the car is, the more we have to do. So 550, it's, you know, brakes first, springs and shocks, front sway bar, and then wheels and tires. S197, you know, we've got the shock, springs, and suspension. And things like aero, I mean, you want to just, if you're starting out, forget about the aero stuff. You want to focus on mechanical grip. Now, when I develop a new platform, I'll do it without any aero devices, because I want to maximize the mechanical grip first. Once I got the mechanical grip, then I will add aero for specific outcomes. I tell people, you know, never do anything to a car, add anything to a car, change anything to a car without looking for a specific outlook or outcome. You know, don't change it, but this guy down here says, oh, you got to change that. Well, he doesn't know what's going on with your car. But anytime you make a change, you're looking for a specific outcome. And a lot of this tuning cars is, I mean, I've been doing it a long time, and there's so much, I mean, there's so much guesswork involved. But when you've done it a lot, then your guesswork becomes more refined, and you can make better decisions and get better results. And And in the beginning, as you make changes, get your notebook. We talked about notebook. It'll be like a #1 thing in the 5-day. Every time you make a change, write it down so you can remember. Because if you think you're going to remember later, I can guarantee that. I've been there, done that. So anytime you make a change, you're looking for a specific outcome. You want to add arrow, why? There's not quite as much grip in the front. Okay, you want to add a little front arrow. There's not quite, also vented hood, remember that, vented hood. There's not quite enough grip under braking. Okay, they want to put a wing in the back. But you have to kind of balance the two. Again, we used to have the G3 wings out of production. Let us know if you want one. In the meantime, we've got a really, really nice wing that we're substituting. It's I can't remember the name. It's anyway. It's a 3D wing, which means the center is lifted. Remember I said in the front of the prototypes, the center of the front of the car is lifted to invite air under. When this wing comes in, there's an up lip, and that lip is again to invite air underneath there to add more flow under the wing, which means more low pressure, which means more downforce. And those wings are so efficient that we're actually running them at 3 degrees positive. 3 degrees positive means the front of the wing is 3 degrees higher than the back. Most wings are 3 degrees negative, with the back being higher. So I mean, we've got some choices in the meantime, and we've also got a low version of that for the 197s. It's pretty cool. And I think maybe the 197s that sits like right on the trunk lid, so you don't, if you're driving around town, you don't draw as much attention to have the wing up in the air. You can tuck it down low. We've got a way to do that. So I mean, you're always looking for a result. You want to change the sway bar. Why? The car's doing this or that. Okay, I always start people out in the middle adjustment of the sway bar. So then I tell them what to do. Okay, try it soft, see what it drives like, write it down. Then try it firm, see what it drives like, write it down. Then you can make your decision for you, your car, that track, what's the best setting. Remember I said earlier, every day, every track, every driver is different. So adjusting what I do for one car might not be that so good for another car. And we run across that in professional racing a lot because you've got multiple drivers. And typically, if you're running 2 cars, the car setups are going to be similar, but they're rarely exactly the same because every driver drives differently. My biggest challenge was doing the Saleen endurance cars where we had 3 different drivers per car. So I had to kind of come up with a compromise for 3 different drivers on setup, which actually worked out pretty good, because if you give everybody a little bit of what they're looking for, they'll be willing to compromise on what somebody else needs, and it works out pretty good. So like I say, every driver is different, and you have to try it. The front doesn't have enough, is a little pushing a little bit off the corner, add a little more rebound in the shock. Write it down and drive it. What does that do? If it's better, woohoo, add a little more. If it's better, great. Add a little more, whoa, it's worse, back up. So you have to tune your car around yourself. Not what the guy next door says, not what you read on the internet. Please don't believe what you read on the internet. There's so much disinformation there. And then if you need some real information direction, again, call Carrie, set up a 15-minute conference call with me, and I'll try to sort you out. Or watch us on the Transforming Your Driving Experience. Oh, we're running out of time. We have questions? Gotta get going. I hit all 5 things on track cars. Wait, most of them. Oh, back to SN95s. Now for the Cobras, we've got a full suspension. So you want to do the chassis support, and then you want to do the front grip kit, which is K-member, control arms, caster plus, camber adjuster, and offset rack bushings, and then the tubular control arms, lower top coilover shocks, and the geometry fix. We haven't, man, I got to get a shop so bad, you guys have no idea. I want to get the rear suspension done for 197s, but it's in the future.
Yeah, you used to have one.
Yeah, I used to have one, but the reason we didn't bring back the one we had, because there was the Fox cars, there was so many different exhaust systems. We just had a terrible time because packaging is so tight. When the exhaust comes over, you don't have much room. And what people don't realize is exhaust systems grow when they get hot. And so we had like 5 or 6 different ones to try to do different exhaust systems. And I mean, it just wasn't worth it at the end. So that's why we haven't brought that back. I've got something new in my head, but again, we're working towards a shot. We're getting there. Anybody wants to help? Hey, let us know.
Okay.
Remember, God, I can't do this better. Like cars and coffee. by clicking the like button at the top of this live session. See, these are things I don't know about. I know about cars. This is all news to me. And, oh, more thumbs up. Okay, thumbs up and heart-shaped wrenches. That's kind of like every car, getting set up for track, every car is different. Again, you want a little more fine-tuned for what you want to do, 15-minute conference call. I'll help you out as much as I can. So I think we've only got 15 minutes left for questions. God, I got long-winded today. When I get going, I get going.
We have a lot of questions, so I'm going to start at the top and go down. And we may not cover all of them. If we don't, we will.
And what we don't get to this week, I'll try to get to next week. And again, remember, I shape what I talk about based on the questions you send in, because I want to talk about what you want to learn about. So, send your questions in. We can't get to all of them. Sometimes I'll package a couple together. It's kind of the same theme. But we'll go through what we got today and what not. We'll carry it next week. And between that and questions that come in on Speed Therapy Society, I'll kind of craft what I want to talk about. Like I said, Carrie asked me what I want to talk about, starting Tuesday. I said, I don't know. And then Wednesday, I don't know. Well, but what questions are coming in? I sit down, start looking at the questions, and by Friday, I sort of got figured out what we want to talk about. So actually, they need almost 4 days to get ready for one of these.
Okay. It's Facebook orders this differently. I was at the top, and now I can't get there. So we have a number of questions on Fox and SN95, and I kind of mentioned that we were having a conversation about maybe doing a separate webinar on each platform, and I think that if you like that idea, once you give us a thumbs up, or not a thumbs up because we can't tell it, give us a yes in the comments if you would like
Make
to
a comment that you'd like a separate one for. I'd combine Fox and S197 because underneath they're pretty much the same car.
and then S550 and
And
S197.
yeah, 550 and 197s, or we have more 197 people out there. So that's obviously I'm kind of focusing on that. Plus, we have the most products that affect change to the car on that too. Oh, getting back to the 5 things: brake ducts. You get brakes, you get going fast, you need brake ducts. You got to get cool air inside the eye. It brakes cool from the inside out. And if you don't get brake ducts, you're going to run real high brake temperatures. And the higher the temperature, the faster your pads are going to wear out. That's why stock street pads wear out maybe 2 laps, because the temperature is so high, they just go. They lose all their wear.
Okay, this first question is from Kobe Ward. If I already have a Watts Link Phase 2 axle mount installed on my S197, do you recommend lowering the prop to the lowest position and adjusting the sway bar to the softest setting, or possibly removing?
I'd say yes. I would, however you can get that Watts Link down as low as you can get it, it's going to help, because where the center pivot is, that's the roll center. Watts Link is a really good way to locate the axle because it's perfect. That's why in the Trans Am we used a Watts Link, but we mounted it horizontal and differential to get that low roll center. So get it down as low as you can, and absolutely set the sway bar in the softest setting. And I think you'll see that it'll make a difference. You're not going to be able to get as low as we do with our roll center relocation kit, but every little bit will help you.
Okay, here's another question. This is from Tim Tomasak. He's using I used Kenny's suggestion for the initial RH setup with RSS coilovers. Question: is there a gain to be made by diagonal corner weight balancing? He's referencing his coilover setup: rear RH at 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch higher than front, and front ride height is 1 inch higher than tire diameter.
Okay, that's kind of a long question, but I've got a really good answer. He's asking about corner weights and also the setup front to rear. Okay, if you're a professional racer running for a championship, absolutely have to work on corner weights. It's an absolute must, and you got to set the car up on the pads. For like an S197, you can do it. Is there much to be gained? Not really, because what you're looking corner weights, like on a Mustang, what I look for is to get both front tires kind of balanced. Look at the front tires first, get them balanced, because if you got one tire that's light under hard braking, this is without ABS, you get one tire light, and then the tire's going to lock up all the time. And you even see that in Formula One. The tire that's light, really hard braking, tire gets light, they kind of smoke them a little bit. The same thing happens if in a Mustang, if one tire is light and you hit the brakes, that's going to lock up first. So in corner weighting, we try to race cars. We try to get I do the fronts first and then try to corner balance the car. But for S197, you have ABS brakes. You know, it's going to be fine. You can do it. Like I say, you're not going to notice much. And if it costs you money to do that, there's better ways to spend your money. And as far as the, the rake, the tire about an inch above the back, and the back about a quarter, half an inch above the front. And here's the thing: if you do corner weights and start playing with the getting the weight right, you're not going to have any two corners that are going to be right as far as right height. Every front, left, right front, they're going to be different. Right rear, left rear, they're going to be different as far as right height because you're going for the corner balance. So I just want to get the cars, kind of set up so they're looking good, and that kind of gives you like the best balance between front and rear. Did I get everything?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all these two. Now this is from Wendy, and she just purchased our front grip kit for her S197. She already has the rear. She has a question on my K member she has it all apart already. I thought about upgrading my oil pan to the Canton for the money. Would I be better getting the volume of oil in the pan or putting in 3 quarts of Canton oil accumulator in a 3-quart Canton oil accumulator?
Either one. Either one of those will work. It just depends on your budget and what you want to do. What an accumulator is, for those that don't know, it's this cylindrical tube that when the car is running, you run extra oil in the pan, and when the car is running, pressure kind of pushes into this tube and compresses it all the way back. So if you happen to run out of oil going around the corner, instead of having oil starvation, that extra buildup is pressurized and it'll just put oil right back into the system. That's one way to do it. The other way is with a Canton road race pan, which we use a lot. It's simple and easy, and works really good. Stock pans are like okay to a point, but at some point you start going really fast, and going around the corner, the oil is going to want to climb up in the oil pan, and you always stand the risk of having it, climb away from the oil intake.
Okay, here's just a comment from Warren Johnson. He's a really good longtime customer of ours.
Yeah, Warren's been around for a while.
And
he's an engineer too.
And he said he sent to you a video clip last night of him smoking a new C8 Z51 Corvette.
Oh, I got to see that. We've been working with Warren. He's got a GT500, and as you heard me talk about, GT500s are difficult because they got a lot of weight in the front, a lot of torque in the back. So I've kind of been working with him to get this car sorted out, and he kept complaining about grip, but he's running like high performance street tires, and I said, man, your grip is tires. You got to get tires. So what does he do? He jumps off the deep end. He goes ahead and gets the Pirelli Trofeo R's, which is you talk about a track tire. I mean, they are just this much short of a full race tire. They're super grippy. The carcass is just like a race tire. In fact, when we do tire pressures on like the Trofeos and also Pirelli slicks, we don't do it like on the DOT tires where we kind of balance inside to out, and all the pressure is going to be different with the Trofeos and the slicks. We're looking for a specific pressure. Typically, the range is 30 to 34. We most of the time run 32 pressures, 32 pounds hot. So he went and got the good tires, and it sounds like they work. He smoked what? A ZR?
I can't have to go back and look.
Anyway, he smoked a Corvette. Way to go. Keep it up.
Of course, you might have some Corvette people in there.
Well, have Corvette people.
Keep it up.
Keep it up.
Okay, we have a Mercure 4TI in the group XR 4TI. That's pretty interesting. Do you remember the Mercures?
Oh yeah, I remember the Mercures. I used to work on them. Well, you talk about an underrated car. They were a good car, except for a couple things. When they brought them to the U.S., Ford took power out and they cheapened them up. But aside from that, I used to back in, this is the 80s maybe. Whenever there was a Mercure at a car rental, I always got that for a car rental because I loved them. Great cars. They were just, Ford screwed it up when they brought it over. They took too much of the good points out to make it, quote, Americanized, which to me was a huge mistake. There are Americans that like European cars. Okay.
Okay, we have From Buddy Stogie. You know who that is?
Buddy Stogie.
You know who that is, right?
That's got to be Roy.
Yeah. Can you cover suspension adjustments for track or racing in the rain?
Oh, that's a really good one. For track or racing in the rain. Okay, first of all, you want to put rain tires on or tires with tread. But in rain, you want to soften up the car as much as possible. Now, in racing, the way I do that is I will unhook one side of the sway bar and just zip tie it up out of the way, and then we'll just turn the shocks pretty much all the way down or close to all the way down. Because if you soften up, the more you soften up the car, the better. You want the car to roll before it starts to really put too much pressure on the tire. Remember I said we put a high spring so it doesn't roll so much, so you get good grip. Well, in the rain, you don't want it to roll, so you want it to roll more so that the car rolls a little bit more before you start putting too much pressure on the tire. So you go pretty much full soft in the rain. That's the best I can say.
Okay, that's probably the last question for today.
Here we go again, carrying her signs. Invite your friends. Yeah, if you enjoy this and you know somebody else that'll enjoy it and learn something from it, please, have them join us. I mean, the more the merrier. And that guys in the Speech Therapy Society, you can see their training information, which is exactly what we wanted. Speech Therapy Society isn't just a group; it's a community of like-minded people, and it's a really good group, by the way. And yeah, transform your driving experience. God, what would I do without it? Transform your driving experience. 5-day starts June 22nd.
And day after Father's Day.
Day after Father's Day. Oh, George's car. That'd make a really good Father's Day present for somebody. So day after Father's Day, and like I said, are we totally ready? No, but I can't put you guys off anymore, so we're just going to dive right in and do it. So you can sign up for that in Speech Therapy. And if you're not in Facebook, you can get a hold of Carrie through info@kennybrown.com, and she can get you signed up another way. So
any questions we missed, we'll cover next week.
yeah, any questions we didn't get to, we'll cover next week. And I'm actually going to do something unheard of. We're going to wrap up 3 minutes before the hour, which is okay because it's getting warm. So, keep the shiny side up. We'll see you next week. Invite your friends. Send your questions in. That's how craft what we're going to talk about next week. And, we love you guys. You guys are awesome. Keep all this stuff coming in. And, well, I'll figure out what I'm going to talk about next week, about midweek.